Recently, I've been thinking about the phrase, the only way to coast is downhill. And the first time I heard that phrase was in a discipleship class in college. My professor was talking about our journey of discipleship with Jesus and how we can either pretty much embrace that life's going to be mostly uphill, or we can try to coast and go downhill. And it's not possible really to stay in the middle. We often like to kind of deceive ourselves into thinking we're in the middle. And so that phrase, you can only coast downhill, has been in my mind a lot. And recently, I was in my aunt's basement helping her. She's remodeling her basement. And it has been storage for a number of years. And what's important to know is this house is very old. It was built in the 1800s, and then it was relocated in the 1900s. And it's got power, it's got everything you need, but it wasn't built for our generation. It wasn't built for this age. And so we're down there and we're starting to set things up, and I plugged in the vacuum to vacuum some of the carpet. And when I plugged in the vacuum, it didn't work. And at first I thought, oh, maybe this plug is just bad. But then I realized very quickly, because all the power went out, that I had blown the fuse box. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this before, where you've got your power overloaded and the power goes out and you're like, oh my gosh. And maybe you're like, Mom, Dad, I don't know what happened. And they go look at some thing in the basement and they're like, hold up, we got to move the fridge out behind, and there's the fuse box. They pull it and they hit the switch, power comes back on. That's what happened here. Power went out, so I went to the fuse box, turn it on, and every time, when you've ever had this happen, when you turn it on, you want the power to come on. And when it doesn't come on, you're like, oh gosh, what have we done? And luckily, my cousin, Justin, is an electrician, and he was able to come over and take a look at things and get it all squared away. But what I realized was we live in a different age. We live in a different generation. That house was not built for a digital age. It wasn't built for all of the different electronics that we have. This guy was thinking ahead on a lot of things, but he could not predict that we would have our phones, tablets, and laptops to charge. He couldn't predict that we would have a TV in every room with its own game console and maybe another like Apple TV and an Amazon Fire Stick or all these different things. He couldn't have anticipated all that. He didn't anticipate all sorts of different appliances besides a microwave. We had microwaves, we have dishwashers. Back then, they didn't even have microwaves. So now we've got our microwave and our air fryer and our blenders and I don't know, some special coffee cappuccino machine, whatever it may be. We have all these things, and every once in a while we might short a fuse box. And when I think about this and we think about how we live in a new age, it doesn't just pertain to when we plug our electronics in to our houses, but it also pertains to how we live as disciples of Jesus. And it still is true that you can only coast downhill. You can only work to go uphill, or you can coast to go downhill. And very rarely, but sometimes God will bless you with a straightaway. So, after this whole situation happens where I kill the power, we had to wait, couldn't do the work, I left and I went to go do something else. I don't really remember what it was. But once I left, I couldn't come back for a while. And as I was on the road, I realized I left my phone in my aunt's basement. Not an ideal situation. I don't know if you're somebody who has a phone, who uses their phone all the time, who doesn't know where their phone is half the time, or is asking their parents for a phone. But I very rarely do not have my phone that long. And 3, 4, 5 hours is a long time for me to not be in touch with certain people. It's just weird. I didn't realize how dependent I was on my phone until that moment. And for lack of a better word, I didn't realize how intimate of a relationship I had with my phone. And when I say that, what I mean is I spend more time with my phone than anybody, more than any of my family members, more than anybody I live with. And I receive more from this. I consume more with this than anywhere else. And I don't know if you're going to be happy about this exercise, but I'd encourage you to take out your phone right now. Normally, we don't want you to have your phone out during the message, but you can take out your phone and go to your screen time. And if you go to your screen time and look, you can see what your daily average is. My daily average for the week is 3 hours and 45 minutes. But I'll be honest, I added 2 minutes because I screwed up this video twice, so we had to restart. So 3 hours and 45 minutes a day, and that's down 14% from last week. And I'll be honest, it's down because I've been working on this message and thinking about how I need to stop using my phone so much. So anyways, maybe you're somebody who's like 3 hours and 45 minutes, dude, that's like half of what I spend on my phone every day. And maybe you're somebody that's like, that's twice as much as I spend on my phone. That's 4 times as much as I spend on my phone every day. Maybe you're like, I wish I had a phone. You're still in that boat. Like I'm asking my parents for a phone for Christmas. Anyways, 3 hours and 45 minutes. I can't remember the last time I spent 3 hours and 45 minutes with somebody else. Just, sitting on the couch hanging out or whatever. And when I had somebody recently say, think about the fact that your phone is, for most people, is the first thing that you see in the morning and the last thing that you see at night. And prior to having phones and all the technology that we have, normally that kind of intimacy was reserved for something like a marriage or your family. So that's what I mean when I say I didn't realize until I blew the fuse box in a really old house and left my phone behind for several hours that we live in a different age. We live in a digital age. And we're in this series now called The Social Dilemma. And we're talking about what it means to live in a digital age. And I think the phrase stands true that you can only coast downhill. You may have heard Jake say several times, if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. I've recently been thinking that we're kind of coming up on an age where if you show me your phone, I can show you your future. If I look at your screen time, if I look at your app usage, we're getting to the point where we have enough information. We could probably form a trajectory for where you're going to go. But that's only true if you allow your phone to form you instead of forming it. And what I mean by that is if you don't form your phone's usage to serve you and benefit you, then it will form you to serve it. Because there are companies out there are people out there that make money every time you tap something. Every time you spend time on that app, someone's making money. So they want you to be on it. So you got to be in control of what you're spending your time on. And I don't know if you know about this. We're talking about this word today. Maybe you've heard it, the algorithm. We titled this series, The Social Dilemma, after a documentary on Netflix that you're free to watch that talks a lot about this algorithm concept. And more or less, it's this. Every social media app, every app that gives you something to consume will then make a split-second judgment whether or not you like it, heart it, I don't know, whatever app you're on, whether you watch the whole thing or watch 2 seconds of it, whether you scroll right past, whether you send it to somebody else. It measures all of these things, and then it says, okay, you got a lot of activity. You were engaged with this post for whatever reason. It doesn't necessarily know exactly why, but it's going to send you more posts exactly like that one. Maybe not exactly like it, but in that genre. It'll send you something random and see, oh, did they still stay engaged with that? And it wants to feed you as much as what you want to see, so you'll stay engaged in that app as long as possible. So, if we're not careful, it's very easy to coast downhill in a world like that. So I want to encourage you as we kind of engage. This is a cool series. We're going to have time to think about each week that we talk about. Because we're going to talk about this, and then we have a Thanksgiving break. Then we're going to have talking about what you consume in the digital age. And we're going to talk in a couple weeks after that about what you create. And we believe that what you consume and what you create are two fundamental ways that you're going to be able to form your phone, form your technology to serve you rather than allowing it to form you to serve it, if that makes sense. So, I don't know where you're at. I don't know if you're still like, this whole conversation seems pointless to me because I don't even have a phone. Or you're like, oh, dude, I'm not worried about it. Everybody uses their phone like this. Here's what I want you to take away. The only way to have that easy coast is downhill. And if you want to coast downhill and take it easy and just scroll through and take whatever comes at you and be formed by the world, you have that choice. But if you want to follow Christ, if you want to be a disciple in a digital age, it's going to be mostly uphill. And so choose to set boundaries, be disciplined, bring people around you that are going to help you form the technology around you to serve you.